Okay, good morning, everyone. I see we're not all here, but I need to make a start or we're going to fall behind. I've had a lot of requests for an extension for the project, so I will allow you to hand that in on Monday. Please, can I just run through what we'll need to have in the project? We need to have a short introduction. Just so that people reading the project know the context of what we're doing. The second thing that we need to have is you need to detail, for instance, how you prepare, how you constructed the ligands. Did you do a conformational search on the ligands? How you saved them, how you prepared them as PBQT. You need to discuss how you prepared the protein, how you deleted certain substances from the crystal structure, where you retrieved the crystal structure from, etc., and how you proceeded with the docking. And in terms of docking, we need to have a short discussion on validation. Have you done some redocking? So there are at least 5 redocking experiments to do. And then the final thing that would be interesting in terms of the docking side of things is if you were able to find 1 or 2 other ligands that might they might not bind better. We don't have enough time to search and find for ligands that bind better. But you might find a ligand, another ligand that's an alternative. You might have found it from zinc or somewhere else, and you might have docked it to 1 or 2 of the receptors. I'll leave it up to you how much you do on that. But the bare minimum is that you have to do that redocking and show me that you are capable of that. And finally, of course, you need to analyze results. So the questions are, what is the energy like when it's bound to the active site? Is it a negative number, a low negative number? Is it a good binding? Is the pose of a ligand, does that match the pose of a co-crystallized ligand? So you can discuss. And of course, if the pose isn't exactly the same, and we don't have room to fix it, this is only a 2-week course. So you just need to present the results as they are there. I'll give you a little more idea of the kind of analysis that you can do in this lecture that we have here. Okay. So where have we come from? Well, we've...
sorry, before
yes?
you continue, may I ask?
Can I, sorry, just before you say that, can I change the deadline for this project to Monday? Is that all right? You have a question? Yes?
As in the write-up is due on Monday.
Write-up is due on Monday.
Okay.
Okay. Was that your question?
No.
Okay. Your question?
In terms of the redocking,
yeah,
the docking process, could you please, I was a bit confused in terms of, I understood the part where yes, we'll be maybe taking the fibrate ligand and the protein and redocking them to ligands and see if it works.
Yes.
But now, after that validation process,
yes,
now when we do a different actual docking,
yes.
is this the part where we use the same ligands that you gave us?
Okay, so you've got a lot of choice. I've shown you how to get different molecules. You see these 5 ligands that we have drawn. These 5 ligands are already known. They've already been found in the active site. So I want you to be creative and see if you can't find, could you perhaps change one of the ligands and add new functionality to it? So change, I don't know if any of you have got a chloro, but change a chloro to a bromo or something like that. Would you be able to change it and redock and see if that improves the docking? I want you to dock something that is different to those original 5s. So the one procedure I gave you was how you could find other molecules on zinc. And today I'm going to show you that if you've got some molecules on zinc, how to choose a molecule on zinc that might be more appropriate than some of the others before you dock all of them. So I'll show you how to choose. But what I want is more than just these 5. I want you to find another molecule that you can dock, another 1 or 2 molecules that you can dock to 1 or 2 receptors to see whether it's better or worse. It's possible that it might be worse. And of course, then we just present the results. You present the results of your experiment. Does that answer your question?
It does somehow. Thank you.
It does somehow. Okay. Please feel free to ask or clarify. You don't sound too certain there, but let's see. So I have a purpose behind it. I know that if you do 5 redockings, I know that you're competent in the docking process, and should you need to use molecular docking in your own projects, in your own personal projects, I would then know that you would be able to do it, because I know that all of you are making new compounds in your projects, and some of those compounds may be small molecules, and some of them may be testable against some targets. So if we have 5 redockings and you've done a minimum of 5, then I know that these techniques, you can take them and use them elsewhere. And of course, then I would like more than that. So if you can do more than just the 5, then I know you've got ample experience in using the software, and that you're capable of using it elsewhere in situations where you might need to use the software. So there is a purpose in me getting you to do many docking experiments. Okay. And of course, if you have a look at the rubric I've got for the... Hello? Is there a question? If you have a look at the rubric that I have got for you, if you have a look at that if you want a really good mark, it's the elaboration, the alternative techniques, the analysis, being able to use Viner as well as Autodoc. And that's for the people who are aiming for a first class in this. Okay. Right, so just to speak a little bit about analysis. Okay, I've already discussed how you can highlight certain parts within Autodoc tools. But of course, in the analysis, when you go play rank by options, please note that there are buttons that you can choose, and you can set the play options. So just check one of these buttons will set up this menu. And in this menu, you can show the hydrogen bonds. You can show the info as well. You can show the binding energy as you play rank by energy. So please look for this. See on the play button, see these 2 buttons here. One of them will bring up the play options, and you can ask it to show the info. So you will see the binding energy as you run through. Just a little thing I can't see here. So this here is there is a doc RMSD that you can do. There are other command-like tools. Don't worry about that. I was using that with the master's students. Of course, in analysis, we have visualization. And in your visualization, you can do a molecular surface of your receptor, and that might highlight and make it easier to see where your ligand is bound. But of course, your ligand, you can set a custom color to it. And I think that your custom color is one of these buttons over here. And then you can have a picture that has both the co-crystallized ligand overlaid with the actual ligand that you have molecular docked to that, to the protein. Of course, I would like in your write-up for there to be many diagrams, many pictures like this, at least 5 pictures showing that it is docked to the protein. Okay. Of course, in Autodoc tools in the analysis, we can go through, you can detail, here's the ligand, and these are residues from the protein, and you can have this kind of visualization, which shows where the ligand is interacting with the protein, the exact residues. And so instead of just showing the general area where the ligand is in the protein, you can detail the exact interactions with your protein. Okay. Right. then we won't use it now, but on the undergrad lab computers, I've got a program called lecture8. It works only under Linux, and lecture8 is really fantastic because it takes this three-dimensional docking and puts it down to 2 dimensions. And so you can see here's my ligand that I've docked, and I can see some van der Waals interaction with several residues. So there's proximity of my ligand to several residues. But of course, I can see hydrogen bonding interactions between my ligand and 2 residues, which are now detailed in lecture8. Okay. Right. And lecture8 also allows for you to go for a 3-dimensional representation, and you can have a look at those same interactions. So I really like lecture8. Often in the literature, I'll see lecture8 diagrams, but of course, we don't have Linux generally. We only have, we're largely working on Windows, and I'm not sure how to get lecture8 to work in Windows, but lecture8 is a really powerful program. If you're interested, I think this is more for your own project work. If you've got a medicinal chemistry kind of a project that you're working with, a particular target, and you want to do molecular docking in your own honors project work, you might just towards the end of it say, Prof. Lob, I would like to get these two-dimensional diagrams from lecture8 for my work, for my supervisor. And then what I will do is I will just give you instructions how to log onto the undergrad computers and how to get this diagram. And I'll tell you what you need and where to go. And you can ask me for help to get that diagram. Okay. Also, I showed you clusters by opening the DLG file. I showed you the histogram. Within Autodoc tools, you can see the histogram. Here's a docking that didn't go so well. And in this histogram, you can see that 5 of the 10 dockings were at the good energy and 5 were at the bad energy. So I'm not certain that this is really that reproducible, because it's reproducibly going to the bad energy as well as the good energy. I would need to redo this docking, maybe 100, set it for 100 runs to try and get it more reproducible. Okay. What else? If you've got 9, you can calculate properties of your ligands. Please note that if your ligand binds very, very well to the protein, it might mean that the molecule you've looked at is a good inhibitor of that drug, but it doesn't mean that someone can then take that, consume that compound and will be cured, because there's a lot more. What if that molecule is toxic? What if that molecule will not be absorbed, etc.? And so what you can do, and it's easy to do in NIME, is to take your ligands and you can calculate the molecular properties. And I'll speak a little bit more in the practice about Lipinski's rule of 5. And this is how we could perhaps choose from 100 ligands. We could find a ligand that has an appropriate properties so that it is drug-like. And so not only will it bind nicely to the target and be active against the receptor, but also it is one that is likely to be absorbed in the human body in an appropriate way so that it can work against its target. Okay. So just Lipinski's rule of 5. There are updates on Lipinski's rule of 5. So just keep it as caution. It says in generally that an orally active drug has no more than 1 violation of the following criteria: no more than 5 hydrogen bond donors, no more than 10 hydrogen bond acceptors, a molecular mass less than 500, and an octanol water partition coefficient that does not exceed 5. So we can calculate that, but of course, experimentally, you can do that. You set up the octanol water with the compound and see what proportion goes to octanol and what proportion goes to water. It's about how it can go across membranes. Okay. There are other, all these numbers are multiples of 5, which is why it's called Lipinski's rule of 5. As with many other rules of thumb, which what this is, there are many exceptions to this rule. So you can have a look at Lipinski's rule of 5. So I'll show you how to get those properties using OpenBabel in the practice session. Okay. This is what you can do with OpenBabel. So with OpenBabel, if you've got a lot of PDBs, if you've got a whole lot of ligands, what you can do, so if you've got the zinc compounds in a folder, the compound, the command line that I will type is I'm going to do Babel, the input PDB is the first, the input type is PDB, and then instead of typing a single PDB name, I'm going to put starter PDB, which will list all PDBs in that directory. I've got to be careful that there are only ligand PDBs in that directory and no other protein PDBs, or else Babel's going to complain as to why it's trying to calculate small molecule properties on a protein. Okay, and the output, I'm going to put all those PDBs to a single output called allofm.sdf, and then I'm going to add to it bonds, logged P, molecular weight, hydrogen bond acceptors, hydrogen bond donors, topological surface area, the title, for instance. And then once I've done this, it's going to create this SDF file. And this SDF file is really nice to open with Notepad++, because you'll go through and you'll see the name of a compound, and you'll be able to see the molecular properties, and you'll be able to compare them to the previous slide. Are there, is the octanol, is the log P less than 5, for instance? Okay, so that's really important. Okay. If you look at topological polar surface area is also important. Have a look at Lipinski's rule of 5 for more information. Okay. And then what can you do in terms of future work? You can refine the doctor complex. Okay. So how do you do that? Well, a nice way to do it is to do a mixed QMMM. So you can have the entire protein at the molecular mechanics level, and you can have a ligand and appropriate residues at the quantum mechanics level. And there's some software that enables you to do that. You could optimize it with a very accurate quantum mechanical model around the active site to get really refined. You would be really refined where the interactions are. So you could be able to do stuff like that. We can look at Poisson-Boltzmann surface areas. This looks at the charges right throughout the whole protein and the interaction. So it's a more accurate energy. We don't have the capability to do it at the moment. If you've got Schrodinger, it's much easier to do. But of course, another tool that's really nice is molecular dynamics. And molecular dynamics takes the whole protein ligand complex up to a temperature. You put in a simulated solvent at a simulated temperature, and then of course everything is free to move. And if everything's free to move, if that ligand really is bound tightly, it will stay in the correct pose in the active site. If it's not really a good pose, even though docking had given it a good energy, if it's not a good pose, you might see it rearrange itself in the active site during molecular dynamics. Or I've seen often the ligand might detach from the active site and go floating off into the solution. So this tells me a lot more than just simply the energy we get from the molecular docking and those interactions. Molecular dynamics is quite powerful. But we're not going to do any of these in the course. Okay. If you have access to Schrodinger and NIME, it's very easy to get some of these properties, because after your docking, you can visualize, and visualization is very important. Yes, I think most of the analysis we're going to do is visualization in this course, but of course you can get a more accurate bounding binding energy in Schrodinger. You can calculate other properties, and then you can put it in a table and view all those properties. Okay. Okay. And of course, I had spoken to you about molecular dynamics. Molecular dynamics is easy to set up within Maestro. You have your complex here. Here's the ligand. Here's the protein. You can't see the ligand. The ligand is present there. But what you do then is you solvate it in a box. The box has periodic boundary conditions, and then you can submit it to temperature, and everything will start to move around. You equilibrate it at the temperature, and you then run it at 300 Kelvin for many picoseconds, and then you'll end up knowing whether that ligand remains in the active site or not. Okay. So that is the end of the lecture side of things. So from now on, I'm only going to do practice sessions, and couple of things I'm going to do today in practice sessions is, one, I want to calculate the properties of all of my ligands. Once I've calculated the properties of all of the ligands, I can choose a particular ligand that I can then take in addition to the other ligands to molecular docking. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. The second thing I'm going to do today is I'm going to try an autodock Wiener docking. So an autodock Wiener docking. And then if we've got time today in the practice session, I'd like to do some visualization and analysis. But tomorrow will be 2 practice sessions. In the 2 practice sessions, I really want to do some analysis of the docking. I want to do lots of visualization. I want to use more tools in the visualization, see if I can't use other tools such as Discovery Studio to visualize and to get really high quality diagrams of the molecular docking process. Okay. Before I sign off, are there any questions? Okay. If there's no questions, then what we're going to do is we are going to meet in about 15 minutes time. So let's meet at 22 in 15 minutes, and we will do some analysis. We'll do some the practice session. I know some of you have asked, just hang on, where is my, so some of you have asked, could you be excused from the practice session? Yes, you may be excused, but just please catch up on that when you have the time to do it. And final point is, just remember the hand-in has been changed to Monday. If you're really struggling with that, please contact me. But please, I really don't want this project to be interfering with your honors work. Okay, so that's part of the reason why I want this handed in earlier. I don't want this to be too big that it interferes with other work that you have to do. Okay, so Monday is now the deadline, but if you have a very good reason, I might consider extending it for you, but I'd need to know what that reason is.